Alright my fellow agents, welcome back to the Gaming Brigade, and today's video, my friends, is actually a reposting of one that I put out yesterday, and unfortunately in that video I left out a few important details in regard to the build, and obviously, I always want to make sure I give you the most accurate information I can, so if I leave out a few important things, I want to make sure I correct that, and in this case, the best thing to do was pull the video. I think I pulled it after like 35 minutes. Anyway, as most of you know by now, we are in the middle of the Cherry Blossom event, and a lot of players out there have finally picked up the Lexington for the first time, and you've asked me to put together a few builds based around that weapon as well as the Heartbreaker gear set. So that's exactly what you're going to get today. Alright, so with that being said, let's get into the build breakdown, starting with the specialization. You can see we're using Technician, and I'm doing that for two main reasons. First of all, this gives you access to the linked laser pointer, and when you equip that to any long-barreled weapon, you are automatically going to pulse every single enemy you target. And this is also going to give you access to the Artificer Hive, which is going to help increase your shield efficiency and duration. Now always remember, regardless of the specialization you choose, you need to make sure you have the proper weapons activated in your weapon skill tree. That way you're getting a 15% weapon damage bonus regardless of which one you're using. Now it's important to mention that in order to have access to the linked laser pointer, you need to have rifles activated in your weapon skill tree as well. So make sure you have rifles activated. After that, it's going to be your primary weapon, which is an assault rifle, and your secondary weapon, which is a shotgun. So as you can see, my primary weapon is the Lexington. This is at expertise level 7. I'm in the process of leveling this thing up. And this has the Talon Flatline, and that is going to amplify weapon damage by 15% to pulsed enemies. And after 4 kills, it applies pulse to the next enemy you hit. Now once again, remember, we are using the linked laser pointer on this weapon as well as on our secondary, which means every single enemy we target is automatically going to be pulsed, so we don't have to worry about that whole 4 kills thing. Now as far as my secondary is concerned, I'm using the Rock and Roll Shotgun. That is a PvP exclusive, but you can also get it from named caches. And in the meantime, if you don't have it, you could use a Stack Broker, you could use an ACS-12. That will totally get the job done. Now moving on to the gear itself, you can see we're running 2 unit alloys and 4 Heartbreaker, which is what we're starting with. Now we're running 4 so we get all of the gear set bonuses. 2 pieces 15% assault rifle and LMG damage, 3 pieces 15% weapon handling, and 4 pieces Heartstopper. Headshots apply pulse for 5 seconds, but once again remember, because of that linked laser pointer, we are pulsing every single enemy we target. Weapon hits on pulsed enemies adds a stack of 1% bonus armor and 1.1% weapon damage up to a max of 50. However, because we are wearing the Heartbreaker body armor, we have access to the Talent Max BPM. And as you can see, that is going to increase the max stacks of Heartstopper from 50 to 100. Next we have the holster, first of 2 pieces of unit alloys. Now you have a few options here. Now you can see I happen to be using a double crit unit alloys holster. However, if you want to use the salvo, try that, because that's going to give you an additional 5% rate of fire increase. And once again, remember, as I mentioned in every build breakdown, this is just a template. Take your time, make a build your own, try out different variations, and just stick with the one you like using. Alright, next we have the knee pads. That is the 3rd piece of Heartbreaker. Right after that we have the gloves, which is the 2nd piece of unit alloys. I'm going to show you another variation in a moment. Last but not least, my friends, we have the backpack. That is the 4th and final piece of the Heartbreaker gear set. And because we're wearing a Heartbreaker bag, we have access to the Talent Cold, and that is going to increase the bonus armor gain per stack of Heartstopper from 1% to 2%. Now another variation I'd like to highlight really quick is the one you're looking at on screen, and for the record, this is what I'm going to be using in the gameplay footage you will see at the end of the video. Now for this version of the build, I've done the following. I've switched the holster to a piece of Grupo. That is going to give us an extra 13% crit hit damage bonus. And I've switched the gloves to the Overdogs. These are just one of my favorite exotics to use in so many different builds. They have the Talent Weakest link, and that is going to amplify weapon damage by 30% to the lowest ranking enemy currently in combat, as per the tier hierarchy. Finally, my friends, it takes us to the last build I'm going to highlight in today's video, and we are using 3 Heartbreaker, 2 unit alloys, and the Ninja Bike backpack. Now most of you know exactly how this thing works, but if you don't, you can see it has the Talent Resourceful, slots in with any equipped gear set and or brand set item to fulfill a requirement towards unlocking a gear set's bonus. Now that simply means, even though we only have 3 pieces of the Heartbreaker gear set equipped, we do get that 4-piece bonus, which is exactly what we're targeting. And as we make our way down to the holster and the knee pads, they are the 2 pieces of unit alloys, but again, because of the Ninja Bike, we get that 3rd brand set bonus as well, which is that 50% magazine size, and with the Lexington, that's pretty damn great to have. As far as the skills are concerned, for every build I showed you, I'm using the Crusader Shield and the Artificer Hive. Last but not least, I want to mention in the gameplay footage you're about to see, I do not have any global modifiers active whatsoever, and the reason for that is I want to ensure that whenever you see this build, you know exactly what it can do without any special events going on. Hope this helped you out, my friends, and as always, questions, comments, or feedback, please let me know and I'll do my best to get back to you as quick as I can. On that note, I'm going to leave you with some gameplay footage and a few final thoughts. As always, I want to take a moment and thank you all for your incredible continued support. Please let me know of any other questions you have I did not address. Thank you once again for the privilege of your time, and as I mention at the end of every one of these, take care of yourselves, be kind to each other, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks again, everyone. Hello once again, my fellow agents. I hope you're doing well on this fine day. All right, a few things really quick. First of all, when it comes to the Artificer Hive, if you are a solo player and you have it holstered, you will get its benefits. However, if you happen to be running in a group, you have to put the hive on the ground and the other agents need to be in the radius of the hive itself to get those benefits. Now, one thing I failed to mention in the video is that when it comes to the secondary weapon, which in my case is the rock and roll shotgun, I'm going to roll up to NPC. I'm going to use that in order to build those stacks for Heartbreaker. At that point, I'm going to switch the weapon once I'm at max stacks, or pretty damn close. And then you got a ton of bonus armor, ton of weapon damage as well. So it's definitely one of the best gear sets in the game. Now, finally, today, do me a favor. Let me know if you are farming for keys right now. Let's say you're trying to get the Lexington or something else. What has the drop rate been like for you since yesterday's apparent buff? You know, there's been so many different iterations of this event since it began. I'll be putting together a news video soon talking about it. I think that the idea of the event is good, but I think a lot of players are wondering why they didn't just use the same template that they had for the winter event as far as the rewards are concerned, because that by far has been the, in my opinion at least, let me know your thoughts, but it's been the best event we've had, and a lot of people talked about it for a while, and it's just unfortunate that we couldn't replicate that. You know what I mean? I'm trying to think what else. Ooh, my work alarm is going off. I gotta get out the door really quick. What else was I going to say? A lot of you have reached out asking me to put together prototype builds. That is not going to happen anytime soon. I'm just being fully transparent. I'm not happy with just the state that prototype gear is in right now. I'm just not a fan of it. So once I actually start to farm those things, once I actually start to, you know, consider playing escalation and farming, that's when I'll start to cover it here at the channel, because I'm never going to talk about something I'm not doing in the game, you know? Finally, what else was I going to say? I know there's something else I'm forgetting, but whatever. Hey, guess what? There are going to be more videos, my friends. I'm sure I will remember as I get in the car for work. That's all I got for this thing. Thank you once again for everything, and I will see you in the next one.
supplies you recovered back to the bridge. We'll find Danvers and make him pay for this. There's more cleaner activity in Dumbo. I'll check in with scouts and call if we find anything.